The dying ship drifted through the cosmic void like a wounded bird, its once proud hull scarred by micrometeorite impacts and energy discharges. The ethereal Dawn had been the pride of the Zenthari research fleet, a vessel designed to push the boundaries of known science and explore the deepest mysteries of space. Now, after 3 months of cascading system failures, it had become a tomb for most of its crew. Captain Thurl Voss stood in the dimly lit command center, his crystalline blue skin dulled by exhaustion and despair. The telepathic abilities that made his species natural leaders felt like a curse now, as he sensed the growing hopelessness of his remaining crew members. Of the original 47 researchers and explorers aboard the ethereal Dawn, only 5 remained alive. The quantum drive failure had been sudden and catastrophic, stranding them in the deep void between star systems with no way to call for help. "Captain, life support is down to 18% efficiency," reported Engineer Plix, the young gaseous being whose plasma form flickered weakly inside his containment suit. Plix belonged to the Nebula Collective, a species that existed as controlled energy rather than solid matter. His people were master engineers, capable of interfacing directly with electronic systems. But even his exceptional abilities had proven insufficient to repair the damage to their ship. At current consumption rates, we have perhaps 6 standard cycles before complete atmospheric failure. Dr. Kesanawa clicked her mandibles in frustration, her 8 spider-like arms working frantically at multiple control panels simultaneously. The arachnoid scientist was considered one of the finest minds in the galaxy, her species known for their logical thinking and methodical approach to problem-solving. She had spent weeks analyzing every possible solution to their predicament, running thousands of calculations and simulations. Every scenario ended the same way: total system failure and death for the remaining crew. "The quantum resonance chamber is completely destabilized," she reported, her voice carrying the weight of scientific certainty. "Even if we could somehow restart the primary drive, the harmonic frequencies are so far out of alignment that any attempt to engage faster-than-light travel would tear the ship apart at the molecular level. We would need a complete replacement of the quantum matrix, something that requires a fully equipped shipyard and at least 2 months of specialized work." Navigator Jorin, whose 4 eyes could perceive spatial relationships in ways that other species could barely comprehend, studied the star charts with diminishing hope. The tetrapod had guided ships across the galaxy for decades, using his species' natural ability to sense gravitational fields and cosmic currents. But even his extraordinary navigational skills could not help them reach the nearest inhabited system without faster-than-light capability. They were simply too far from civilization, trapped in the empty space between star systems where few ships ever ventured. "The closest inhabited system is 47 light-years away," Joran announced, his multiple eyes focusing on different sections of the holographic display. "At our current sublight speed, the journey would take approximately 300 standard years. Our remaining power reserves would be exhausted long before we could cover even a fraction of that distance." Captain Voss felt the weight of command pressing down upon him like a gravitational field. He had led countless missions into uncharted space, always bringing his crew home safely. The ethereal Dawn was supposed to be his final mission before retirement, a prestigious research expedition to study quantum anomalies in the galactic periphery. Instead, it had become a disaster that would likely claim his life, and the lives of everyone who had trusted him to lead them. The ship had been investigating reports of unusual quantum disturbances in this remote sector when everything went wrong. They had detected readings that suggested the presence of artificial quantum fields, something that should have been impossible according to current scientific understanding. Dr. Kessler had been eager to study the phenomenon, believing it might represent evidence of an unknown alien civilization or perhaps some natural quantum process that could revolutionize their understanding of physics. The first sign of trouble had come when their quantum sensors began detecting impossible readings. The energy signatures were unlike anything in their databases, seeming to violate several fundamental laws of physics. When Dr. Kessler attempted to take detailed scans of the anomaly, something had gone catastrophically wrong. A massive energy surge had overloaded their quantum drive, causing a cascade failure that spread throughout the ship's systems like a virus. Within hours, they had lost faster-than-light capability, main power, and most of their life support systems. The crew had worked desperately to contain the damage, but the quantum drive failure had created a resonance cascade that continued to spread through the ship's systems. One by one, their fellow crew members had been forced into emergency stasis pods as life support failed in different sections of the vessel. Those pods were now running on backup power that would not last much longer. "Wait," Joran suddenly announced, his four eyes focusing intently on a section of his navigation display. "I am detecting a signal, very faint, but definitely artificial. It appears to be some kind of distress beacon." Captain Voss felt a spark of hope ignite in his chest. "How far away? Can you determine the source?" "Approximately 2 light hours from our current position," the navigator replied, his specialized organs analyzing the signal with increasing excitement. "The signal is weak and intermittent, but it definitely appears to be a plea for assistance. The transmission patterns are unfamiliar, not matching any known galactic communication protocols." Dr. Kessler's 8 arms moved across her control interfaces with renewed energy. "If there is another ship out there, they might have spare parts we could use for repairs. Even if their technology is incompatible with ours, perhaps we could adapt something to extend our life support systems." Engineer Plix's plasma form brightened noticeably inside his containment suit. "Any help would be better than our current situation. I could interface with almost any electronic system to determine compatibility. If we can reach them with our remaining power reserves, it might be our only chance of survival." Captain Voss made the decision that would change all their lives. Navigator Joran, plot a course for that signal. Engineer Plix, divert all non-essential power to the sublight engines. Dr. Kessler, prepare the emergency medical bay in case we find survivors who need assistance. We investigate this distress signal. The journey to the source of the transmission took 8 hours, during which time their life support systems continued to deteriorate. By the time they reached the coordinates, warning lights were flashing throughout the ship, and the air had become noticeably thinner. What they found when they arrived defied their expectations completely. Floating in the void was what remained of some kind of space station, though its design was unlike anything in their databases. The structure was angular and geometric, built with materials and engineering principles that seemed crude compared to the flowing, organic designs favored by most galactic civilizations. Large sections had been destroyed by what appeared to be weapons fire, leaving twisted metal and exposed interior spaces open to the vacuum of space. Scanning for life signs, Dr. Kessler reported her scientific instruments working to penetrate the wreckage. The station appears to have been attacked approximately 3 months ago. Most sections show no atmosphere or power, but ... wait. I am detecting one very faint life sign in what appears to be an emergency shelter deep within the central core. one survivor after 3 months in a destroyed station. Captain Voss found that difficult to believe. Are you certain your instruments are functioning correctly? Confirmed, the arachnoid scientist replied. Single life form, definitely alive, but showing signs of severe stress and malnutrition. The emergency shelter appears to be maintaining minimal life support, but barely. Whoever is in there cannot have much time left. Engineer Plix had been analyzing the station's remains with his unique abilities. Captain, the technology is completely unknown to me. The materials, the energy signatures, even the basic design principles are unlike anything I have encountered. This station was built by a species not in our galactic databases. The rescue operation was complicated by the fact that their own ship was barely functioning. They had to use their emergency shuttle, itself operating on backup power, to reach the destroyed station. Captain Voss led the rescue team personally, along with Dr. Kessler and her medical equipment. The journey through the station's twisted corridors was treacherous, with sections that had been exposed to space for months, and others that were barely holding together. They found the emergency shelter in the deepest part of the station's core, a small compartment that had somehow maintained atmosphere and basic life support. When they cut through the sealed door, they found something that shocked them all. A bipedal alien unlike any species they had ever encountered. The creature was tall and slender, with smooth skin that had a pale pinkish color. Instead of the crystalline features of the Xanthari, the multiple limbs of the arachnoids, or the energy form of the gaseous beings, this alien had only 4 limbs and appeared to be made of solid organic matter. Most surprising of all, it had only 2 eyes, both facing forward, and a mouth that curved upward when it saw them. "Oh, thank God," the creature said, though their translation devices struggled with the unfamiliar language patterns. "I thought I was going to die alone in here." The alien introduced itself as Sarah Martinez, explaining that she was something called a human from a species that the galactic databases had no record of. According to her account, the station had been a research facility studying quantum mechanics when it was attacked by raiders. She had been the facility's chief astrophysicist and had managed to reach the emergency shelter when the attack began. For 3 months, she had survived on emergency rations and recycled water, using her knowledge of the station's systems to keep the life support functioning long past its designed limits. "I've been stretching everything as far as possible," Sarah explained as they brought her aboard the Ethereal Dawn. "Modified the atmospheric recyclers, rerouted power from non-essential systems, even created a water recovery system using spare parts from the laboratory equipment. But I was down to maybe another week of supplies." Captain Voss studied this strange human with fascination. 3 months alone in a destroyed station would have driven most species to madness. Yet Sarah seemed remarkably composed and mentally stable. Her solutions to survival problems showed a creativity and resourcefulness that impressed even Dr. Kessler. "Your species is not in our galactic databases," Dr. Kessler observed, her 8 arms working to collect biological samples for analysis. "You appear to be completely unknown to galactic civilization. How did you develop faster-than-light travel and quantum research capabilities?" Sarah's expression grew sad. "We haven't, not really. That research station was our first major deep space facility, established after we made contact with a derelict alien ship that crashed on our planet decades ago. We've been trying to reverse engineer the technology ever since. The quantum research was my specialty, was trying to understand how faster-than-light travel actually works." As they talked, alarms began sounding throughout the Ethereal Dawn. Engineer Plix's voice echoed through the ship's communication system. Captain, the quantum resonance is becoming increasingly unstable. We have perhaps 2 hours before complete. System collapse. Captain Voss felt despair returning. They had saved this human, but it appeared to be only a temporary reprieve. Their ship was still dying, and now they had an additional person consuming their limited life support resources. "May I see your quantum drive system?" Sarah asked suddenly. "I know our technology is primitive compared to yours, but quantum mechanics, the fundamental physics should be the same regardless of the implementation." Dr. Kess's mandibles clicked skeptically. "This is advanced Zenthari quantum engineering, developed over millennia of research and refinement. The mathematical principles alone require years of study to fully comprehend." "I understand," Sarah replied gently. "But sometimes a fresh perspective can spot things that experts might overlook. Different approaches to the same problem can yield surprising results. What happened next would be remembered by the surviving crew members for the rest of their lives." The human spent 2 hours examining their quantum drive system, asking questions that seemed almost childlike in their simplicity, yet somehow cut to the heart of complex engineering problems. She crawled through maintenance spaces with a fearlessness that amazed the alien crew, studying components that had taken the greatest minds of multiple civilizations decades to develop. "The harmonic frequencies in your quantum matrix are definitely destabilized," Sarah observed, emerging from a service conduit with her strange clothing stained by lubricants and coolant. "But what if instead of trying to restore the original frequency patterns, we created an entirely new harmonic sequence? In our research, we discovered that quantum fields can be stabilized using mathematical principles that don't require perfect resonance." Engineer Plix's plasma form brightened with interest. "Explain this theory of yours, human." "On Earth, we call it quantum tunneling," Sarah continued, her excitement growing as she spoke. "Instead of trying to force the quantum particles to follow predetermined paths, you create multiple probability channels and let the particles choose their own routes. It's less efficient than perfect resonance, but it's also much more stable and forgiving of system damage." Dr. Kess's 8 arms moved frantically across her calculation interfaces. "The mathematics are unconventional, but theoretically sound. This approach would require significantly less power than our current systems, which could be advantageous given our energy limitations." "It's not a permanent solution," Sarah admitted, "but it should get you to the nearest shipyard for proper repairs. The quantum tunneling effect won't provide full faster-than-light capability, but it should give you about 60% efficiency, which would be enough to reach civilization." Captain Voss stared at this remarkable human being. In 2 hours. She had proposed a solution that their best scientists and engineers had not considered in months of desperate attempts. Her approach was unorthodox, even primitive by their standards, but it showed a creativity and intuitive understanding that their more advanced civilizations seemed to have lost. As the ship's systems continued to fail around them, Sarah worked alongside Engineer Plix to implement her quantum tunneling theory. The combination of her innovative thinking and his technical expertise created something neither could have achieved alone. Slowly, impossibly, the quantum drive began to stabilize. But just as success seemed within reach, the ship's main power core began to fail, threatening to destroy their progress and kill them all. Asterisk. The impossible solution, the power failure alarm cut through the ethereal dawn like a death knell, its piercing tone announcing the beginning of the end. Captain Voss felt his heart sink as emergency lighting cast eerie shadows throughout the command center. They had been so close to success, so close to implementing Sarah's revolutionary quantum tunneling solution, only to face this final, insurmountable obstacle. Main power core is experiencing complete cascade failure, Engineer Plix reported, his plasma form flickering weakly inside his containment suit. The quantum experiments have destabilized our remaining energy reserves. We have perhaps 30 minutes before total power loss. Dr. Kess's 8 arms moved frantically across her control panels, running calculations at superhuman speed. Without main power, we cannot implement the quantum tunneling modifications, even if we could somehow restart the quantum drive. We would not have sufficient energy to maintain it long enough to reach the nearest inhabited system. Sarah Martinez studied the readouts with intense concentration, her human brain processing information in ways that continued to surprise the alien crew. Where the others saw insurmountable technical obstacles, she seemed to perceive possibilities that their more advanced minds could not grasp. Her species might be primitive by galactic standards, but their approach to problem-solving was refreshingly direct and unencumbered by conventional limitations. What if we don't need full main power? She asked suddenly. Your quantum tunneling effect requires much less energy than traditional faster-than-light travel. What if we could create a distributed power system using all the ship's remaining energy sources simultaneously? Navigator Joran's 4 eyes focused on her with increasing interest. You are suggesting we combine the emergency power cells, backup generators, life support reserves, and even the shuttle's power core into a single unified system? Exactly, Sarah nodded, her excitement growing as the idea took shape in her mind. On Earth, we have a concept called load balancing. Instead of relying on one massive power source, you distribute the energy requirements across multiple smaller systems. It's less efficient overall, but much more stable and resistant to failure. Engineer Plix's plasma form brightened noticeably. The technical challenges would be enormous. Our power systems are designed to operate independently with different voltage requirements and connection protocols. Linking them together could result in feedback loops that destroy everything. That's where human experience with improvisation comes in, Sarah replied with a confidence that amazed the alien crew. We're experts at making things work with whatever materials we have available. Give me access to your maintenance, supplies, and spare parts, and I'll show you how to build interface circuits that can handle the power distribution safely. Captain Voss found himself faced with an impossible decision. They could continue following conventional procedures and accept certain death within the hour, or they could trust this unknown human's radical proposal and risk destroying their ship even faster. The choice should have been easy, but something about Sarah's determination and innovative thinking gave him hope. Dr. Kessa, what is your assessment of the human's proposal? He asked. The arachnoid scientist's mandibles clicked thoughtfully as she ran rapid calculations. The mathematics are unconventional, but surprisingly solid. Her load-balancing theory could theoretically provide sufficient power for the quantum tunneling modifications. However, the integration process would require precise coordination between all crew members, working in perfect synchronization under extreme time pressure. And if we fail, Captain Voss needed to know the full implications. If we fail, we die approximately 20 minutes sooner than we would anyway, Dr. Kessa replied with scientific honesty. But if we succeed, we could achieve stable, faster-than-light capability within our power limitations. Sarah had already begun gathering materials from the ship's maintenance supplies, her hands working with practiced efficiency. Captain, I need each crew member to handle their species' specialties. Engineer Plix can interface directly with the electronic systems to create the power distribution network. Dr. Kessa can calculate the precise timing sequences for power activation. Navigator Jorin can monitor the gravitational effects to ensure we don't accidentally create a black hole. And you can coordinate everything through your telepathic abilities. The plan was audacious beyond belief. Sarah proposed creating a completely new type of spacecraft propulsion system using spare parts, emergency power supplies, and theories that no galactic civilization had ever attempted. The process would require Plix to merge temporarily with the ship's electronic systems, risking his plasma form in ways that could prove fatal. Dr. Kessa would need to perform calculations in real time without the assistance of the ship's main computers. Joran would have to navigate using gravitational instincts while the space around them was being distorted by experimental quantum effects. And Captain Voss would need to maintain telepathic contact with all crew members simultaneously, something that was exhausting even under normal circumstances. The human is asking us to attempt something that has never been tried in the entire history of galactic civilization, Dr. Kessa observed. The risk factors are incalculable. So is the alternative, Sarah pointed out. Look, I know my ideas seem crazy by your standards. Human technology is primitive, our understanding is limited, and our methods are unconventional. But sometimes, that's exactly what you need. We don't know enough to understand why something should be impossible, so we just try it anyway. Engineer Plix had been analyzing Sarah's technical specifications with growing admiration. Her interface designs are actually quite elegant. The human has found ways to compensate for the power fluctuations using simple mechanical solutions rather than complex electronic controls. This approach might actually be more stable than our conventional systems. The next 20 minutes represented the most intense teamwork any of them had ever experienced. Sarah directed the operation with a calm competence that belied her species. Suppose proactiveness, coordinating the efforts of beings whose civilizations were thousands of years more advanced than her own. She crawled through maintenance spaces that were barely large enough for her human frame, installing bypass circuits and power regulators with tools that had never been designed for such purposes. Engineer Plix pushed his abilities to their absolute limits, his plasma form merging partially with the ship's electronic systems to create connections that should have been impossible. The process was dangerous for his species, as too much integration could result in permanent dissolution. But he trusted Sarah's calculations and followed her instructions precisely. Dr. Kessa performed mathematical miracles, calculating quantum field interactions in her head while working with 8 different control interfaces simultaneously. The complexity of the calculations would have challenged the ship's main computers, but her arachnoid brain was capable of processing multiple parallel thought streams with incredible efficiency. Navigator Jorin monitored the gravitational effects with all 4 of his specialized eyes, watching for signs that their quantum experiments might be creating dangerous space-time distortions. His species' natural ability to perceive gravitational fields made him uniquely qualified to detect problems before they became catastrophic. Captain Voss maintained telepathic contact with all crew members, coordinating their efforts and sharing critical information faster than verbal communication could have managed. The mental strain was enormous, but he found himself drawing strength from Sarah's unwavering determination and confidence. Power distribution network is stable, Plix reported, his voice strained from the effort of interfacing with so many systems simultaneously. All secondary power sources are now connected and balanced. Energy output is at 43% of original main power specifications, but holding steady. Quantum field calculations are complete, Dr. Kessa announced. The tunneling effect should activate in 47 seconds, assuming all systems maintain current stability levels. Gravitational readings are within acceptable parameters, Jorin confirmed. No dangerous space-time distortions detected. The quantum field modifications appear to be contained within predicted boundaries. Sarah made final adjustments to her improvised power regulation system, using tools in ways that would have horrified their original designers. All interface circuits are functioning normally. Power draw is steady across all connected systems. We're ready to attempt quantum tunneling activation. Captain Voss felt the weight of command settle upon his shoulders one final time. Everything depended on the next few moments. Either Sarah's impossible solution would work, or they would all die together in the attempt. All crew members, prepare for quantum drive activation. Engineer Plix, initiate the tunneling sequence. What happened next defied every expectation they had harbored about faster-than-light travel. Instead of the smooth, powerful surge they were accustomed to, the quantum drive activated with a gentle hum that grew gradually stronger. The ship began to move forward, not with the dramatic acceleration they expected, but with a steady, sustainable velocity that felt almost natural. Incredible, Dr. Kessa whispered, her voice filled with scientific wonder. The quantum tunneling effect is creating multiple probability channels simultaneously. Instead of forcing space-time to bend around us, we are allowing the quantum particles to find their own paths through dimensional barriers. The process is actually more elegant than our conventional faster-than-light systems. Speed and efficiency are at 62% of normal faster-than-light capability, Navigator Joran reported with amazement. At this rate, we can reach the Kepler station shipyards in approximately 18 standard days. Our improvised power system shows no signs of instability. Engineer Plix's plasma form had returned to normal brightness, no longer strained by the dangerous system integration process. The human's power distribution network is functioning perfectly. Load balancing is maintaining stable energy flow to all systems. I have never seen anything like this approach to spacecraft engineering. Sarah collapsed into a nearby chair, her human physiology finally showing signs of exhaustion after hours of intense work. But her expression was one of satisfaction and relief rather than fatigue. It worked, she said simply. I honestly wasn't completely certain it would, but sometimes you have to take calculated risks. Captain Voss looked at this remarkable human being with profound respect and gratitude. In less than 12 hours, she had not only saved their lives, but had revolutionized their understanding of faster-than-light travel. Her approach had been unconventional, even primitive by their standards. But it had succeeded where their most advanced technologies had failed. Sarah Martinez of Earth, he said formally, using the human naming conventions she had taught them. I hereby offer you a permanent position aboard the Ethereal Dawn as our Chief Innovation Officer, if such a position exists. If it does not, we will create it specifically for you. Sarah's face displayed that distinctive human expression they had learned to recognize as a smile. I would be honored to accept, Captain. This has been the most exciting day of my entire life. As the Ethereal Dawn continued its steady journey toward civilization, the crew began to understand that they had witnessed something unprecedented in galactic history. The combination of human creativity and alien technical expertise had produced innovations that neither could have achieved alone. Sarah's willingness to challenge conventional wisdom, combined with the crew's advanced scientific knowledge, had opened new possibilities for faster-than-light travel that would eventually revolutionize space exploration throughout the galaxy. Dr. Kessa spent the following days documenting every aspect of Sarah's quantum tunneling modifications, recognizing that they had stumbled upon discoveries that would advance galactic science by decades or possibly centuries. The humans' approach to problem solving, unencumbered by preconceptions about what should be possible, had revealed solutions that their more advanced civilizations had overlooked. Engineer Plix began incorporating Sarah's load-balancing principles into other ship systems, finding that her distributed power approach could improve efficiency and reliability throughout the vessel. The concept of using multiple smaller systems instead of single large ones challenged fundamental assumptions about spacecraft design. Navigator Jorin discovered that the quantum tunneling effect actually made space navigation easier in many ways, as the multiple probability channels provided more flexibility in choosing optimal travel routes. The humans' unconventional physics had opened new possibilities for interstellar travel that his people had never considered. Captain Voss reflected on the profound lesson they had all learned. Advanced technology and accumulated knowledge were valuable, but they could also become limitations if they prevented consideration of new approaches. The humans' primitive perspective had been exactly what they needed to solve problems that their sophisticated systems could not handle. When they finally reached Kepler Station 18 days later, the ethereal dawn had become something unique. In the galaxy, the first vessel to successfully combine human ingenuity with alien advanced technology, the shipyard engineers were fascinated by the modifications Sarah had made, recognizing immediately that they were looking at revolutionary developments in faster-than-light travel. Word of the humans' achievements spread rapidly throughout the galactic community. Within months, research teams from dozens of civilizations were studying Sarah's quantum tunneling theories and load-balancing principles. The concepts that had seemed impossibly primitive to the ethereal Dawn crew were quickly recognized as breakthrough innovations by the galaxy's scientific community. Sarah Martinez, the unknown human who had spent 3 months stranded in a destroyed research station, became the first member of her species to be awarded the Galactic Science Council's highest honor for revolutionary discoveries. But more importantly, she had proven that cooperation between different species, each contributing their unique strengths and perspectives, could achieve things that none could accomplish alone. The ethereal Dawn continued its research missions, with Sarah as a permanent crew member, and their combined discoveries continued to advance galactic science in ways that surprised everyone involved. The human approach to problem-solving, characterized by creativity, determination, and willingness to challenge conventional wisdom, had found its place among the stars, and in the deep void of space where they had first met, the wreckage of the human research station served as a monument to the power of cooperation across species barriers, a reminder that sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected sources, and that the greatest discoveries often emerge from the combination of different perspectives working toward common goals. Asterisk.